Welcome to 44 and 1 first and foremost. I will like and subscribe. I'm Tempest. No, he's Tempest. I'm GVizzle. I feel like once upon a time, this foundation was a good match for my face, but I don't know what happened to it lately because now when I see myself on video, I feel like a Muppet.
Thing
And
is,
in the light of the room that I put my makeup on, it looks fine. And then I get into like natural light. I'm like, oh,
well, on my computer, it looks perfectly fine.
maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
I sat down. I made it. I recorded a TikTok video this morning, and I was like, people are going to think I'm wearing a weird filter because have you seen the filter making its new rounds?
The teen one.
No, not that one. That one's equally creepy.
Yeah.
This one's called something glam or bold glam, but it's different than other filters because the other filters, like if you were to put your hand over your eye, you'd be able to see the imprint of the filter on your hand. It doesn't now.
Okay.
So like you can run your hand around your face and you don't see the filter. The filter doesn't change or doesn't move. Like it's quite creepy. I mean, and it's damaging a lot of people's self-esteem. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
well, what does it do? What's the function of it?
It gives you a full face of like natural glowy makeup, contours the face, gives you bolder eyebrows so that it frames the face better. So it's totally smooths out your skin. Like I saw one creator this morning who has she's got acne, and she has spent a lot of time building her confidence and being comfortable in her skin, even with her severe acne. And like when she does makeup tutorials, she doesn't cover her acne. She does it like around it. So then the filter removed all of her acne, and she was like, she had made some really, really valid points, as did a lot of people who were talking on the filter about how it is very damaging to young women's self-esteems who go onto these apps and they see these women looking flawless, not realizing it's just a filter. And then they compare themselves with like, well, how come I can't look like that? And I look like this. And it's just like, at least when you can tell it's a filter, you can tell it's a filter, right? You can see it move, you can see if the hair gets in the way. But when you can't tell, then it's just this weird, uncanny valley of terrible self-esteem.
Yeah, I mean, some of the filters do make me feel a bit uncomfortable. And it's almost like, I mean, I was watching Star Trek Picard the other day, right? And what got me thinking about all this shit was that the woman that plays Beverly Crusher, I forget what her name is.
Gates McFadden.
That's it. I was going to say she's got an unusual name. And I just, like, I had this, those just unbidden thoughts that just go into your head and then you can't stop them and they just get in there. And I was like, fuck's sake, I really want to watch a show that has an older woman actress in it who hasn't had her face fucked with,
Has Gates McFadden had her face fucked with?
It's what it looked like to me. I mean, it's at the point where I don't know anymore if they have or not, because she was an attractive woman and then like her mouth looks weird now. And it just looked to me like she'd had, I don't know, some kind of.
I feel like we're going to get to a place where you won't even, they won't be able to make period piece movies anymore.
Yeah.
because no one's going to look natural. Like it's even hard for me sometimes to reconcile a movie that was like, it's like supposed to be set in the 1600s, but everybody has perfectly white teeth and like shaved armpits. Like even that I struggle to get over. But if you were watching a movie that's supposed to be set in the 1600s and the main actress or actor's forehead doesn't move and they've got these big filler lips and
this is already happening. I watched a show, it was really good. It was called Medici, the Masters of Florence. And they have like the female head of the household. I forget what her name is. But she's supposed to be in like her 60s. But then she's got like that, the lip job and stuff.
Oh.
And like the pouty duck thing.
I'm looking at Gates McFadden right now. She definitely does look like she's done is it Botox that goes in the forehead?
Yeah,
she looks like she's had that.
It goes around your lips too.
There is something different about her mouth, but I can't quite place it. It doesn't look like she's got fillers, but maybe her cheeks look a little bit lifted.
Yeah, and I think because I was watching First Contact last night, and for like the 12th time, and I was thinking that like the way her mouth was moving in First Contact just looked like her normal mouth from other episodes. I watched Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2 the other day, and just the way that like her facial structure moves is so different to how it is in Picard.
It's yeah, she's done something. I mean, it's subtle and it's not a ton, not like some other people that we've seen, but it is I love looking at like Jamie Lee Curtis and Helen Mirren and like Emma Thompson, because they've allowed themselves to. What's wonderful about them letting themselves age naturally is that you could see who they're supposed to be versus after a certain point, all like it's like there's probably only 4 plastic surgeons in Hollywood and they just keep giving everybody the same face because then everybody just starts to look the same.
The other thing is, I mean, also I just kind of want to interject here because obviously if when men are talking about women's looks, it can be misconstrued. And I'm not pointing this against McFadden because I really like her as an actress and I've loved the roles that she's played. What I'm griping about is the societal structure around her that's kind of pushed her to do this to herself. They're like, this isn't a problem with her or the people that use plastic surgery. What I'm against is like the producers and the directors and some of the people that watch the movies that make women feel like they need to do this.
Well, it's yeah, and I think that's more ingrained than that because even there are like 20-year-olds who start proactively getting stuff done to their face because of this fear of aging or fear of looking older, or maybe it's just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't have the drive to get plastic surgery or to get fillers or Botox or anything, so I don't understand what comes through that. Like, I know a lot of people are just like, I just want to smooth my forehead, just want to hold on a little bit longer, and that's fine, right? Whatever makes you feel good makes you feel good. But I just hope people who do it for the purposes of making themselves feel good and not because they feel this pressure to do so.
Exactly. That's kind of where I stand on it. I know a nurse that I kind of want to talk to on my channel at some point, because one of her side gigs is doing like the aesthetic stuff. She has an aesthetics clinic, where she does like little things like the Botox and filler and stuff. And I kind of want to pick apart a bit more as to like, so what kind of women go to this, and you know, what are their reasons usually? And because it's in the UK, there's a lot more consideration and vetting of the people, the clients that want to use the services than I think there is in Hollywood. And in Hollywood, I think things are a bit too easy for them to get, and they have a lot of money and a lot of people around them nodding and saying yes. Whereas
there's some services that are like, you know, I mean, I furrow my brow quite a bit. So I've got what they call 11 lines, right? So like if I were so inclined and had some money to burn, maybe I would like, you know, just pop into a clinic and, you know, get those taken care of, right? Like I think there's a deconstruction of mental health when it gets to a certain level, but for the most part, I think people just want to feel the way they felt when they felt like they were in their prime.
Yeah, but like it's kind of, I think there's a bit of dishonesty in terms of and again, I need to differentiate between the regular aesthetics practitioners and the people in Hollywood as I perceive them. Like the plastic surgeons there and the clinicians, I think are a bunch of fucking crooks. I have no respect for their industry. But when it comes to regular people just wanting to help themselves a bit and feel better about themselves, I have a lot of compassion for that. And I get that. That like if somebody like you and me that, you know, it's just like, well, this will make me feel a bit better about myself. It'll just stave off the old age for a few years and people will treat me differently. But then so those clinicians then are providing a really important service to people in terms of self-esteem. But then when it comes to the kind of stuff that's pushed on the superstars that have a lot of money and they have a lot of sycophants around them, that's the kind of stuff I'm really worried about.
Or even those people, like I'm almost less worried about that than I am those people who will spend, you know, just average everyday people who will spend $150,000 to look like someone else. If there was a man who looks like Ken and his girlfriend, I think, has done a lot of surgery to look like Barbie. There's another guy who spent, I think it was like 150 grand to look like Kim Kardashian. And like that, those practitioners, those plastic surgeons, I think need to be held accountable because you need to, and like the ones that give, you know, women helium balloon sized breasts, like those, you kind of need to step back and be like, why don't you just think about it? Maybe talk to somebody about your motivations behind doing this, and then we can move forward.
Just an example of like something I know a bit more about, just because I spent a day in a dietitian's clinic, and even for something simple, for like a gastric band in the UK, the people that want to go get a gastric band, if they do it through the NHS, and I think if it's an elective surgery, they have to pay a certain amount of money towards it. But anyway, regardless of that, there is a strong vetting procedure, and you have to start losing weight for 12 months and provide evidence that the gastric band itself, that you understand that's not going to fix your life and your situation. It can help you, and it can be a boon to help you move forward, but you're going to need to do some fundamental changes in your life that are going to take time to embed themselves in your life and to actually take them on as habit. And then you have to show evidence that, like I say, for 12 months, you have to be losing weight, you have to be changing your diet and doing all these other things. And the health practitioners here aren't just going to give you a gastric band.
I think it's the same here, but I don't know to what level. Like my cousin did it, and we don't. My cousin and I don't talk. So it's not like we had a feud or anything. We just don't talk. But I ran into her once, and like she was preparing for, and I think there was like a couple of appointments, but she was, I think in Canada, it's elective to a point. Like once your weight exceeds a certain point, then it starts to become like a health. I don't know what the words are, but the government will pay for it if your weight exceeds a certain point. If you're not at that point, then it's aesthetic and you're on the hook for it yourself. But I think she had to go through a few counseling sessions beforehand. I'm not sure about if she had to lose weight beforehand, but she had to go through some counseling sessions to kind of get her in that same place, that this is what to expect afterwards, and this is what it's going to be like for you afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know how much she paid attention to it, because when I asked her like why she was doing it, she's like, I just don't want to stop eating pizza. I was like,
that's not the right reason.
That's
like, the red flag.
Nobody does. But if you're gonna just lose weight and continue eating the way you were eating before, like a lot of people have, I don't know if it's stretching the band or broken the band or
broke it.
Yeah, so like it does happen.
Yeah, and actually you have to get your weight, like for what they have in the more extreme cases, is that to use the instrumentation to apply the band, you have to be like, you have to, your circumference has to reduce to a certain type, to a certain size.
I think I've not watched My 600-Pound Life, but I've heard, like, seen clips of it where people have been told that they're too big for the surgery, so they have to lose weight to be able to get there.
Yes, because like the probes are like two sort of sticks that they sort of putting you through keyhole surgery, and then to be able to reach the stomach, they have to get rid of some of the fat in the way, so you have to lose a certain number of pounds so that the probes can get to your stomach.
I always thought that like plastic surgery would be gentle. They used to have this on, I forget what channel it was. I think it was like when TLC was actually the learning channel and not just terrible TV. They used to have this operation show where like they would show you, like there was one that was like, I watched a knee replacement surgery and like a whole bunch of different surgeries, and one of them was a face or a liposuction around the face and chin. And I thought they would be like, tender. It was like scraping ice off your windshield. Like
yeah.
I was like, you're gonna poke to the skin. It was very scary to watch.
I saw a plastic surgeon doing it to himself in a mirror. Yeah, it was on the documentary I saw years ago, and he was just sitting there with the thing, and he just going.
Ugh. No, I have a hard time picking a scab.
yeah. And I just think this is the other thing I think with plastic surgery, and I mean, just going back to the point about like the vetting and stuff, and I think that when it comes to actors that are doing it for their job, their careers, I think there aren't the checks and balances with the healthcare practitioners in the States. And so I think that they have enough money where they can make everything go away so they can just get the procedure.
Well, we've talked about this before, right? In cases like Prince, Michael Jackson, Tom Petty, where they were just getting over-medicated, and doctors didn't want to say no. I think it's the same thing. If you've got someone like an A-list celebrity coming into your practice, them having been there is a huge boom to your business. And you rejecting them is also going to be really detrimental to your business. So it's kind of putting them in a rock and a hard place, right? Like they want to make money. Maybe they don't feel like amazingly ethically doing it, but when you flash the dollar signs, a lot of ethics go out the window when there's money on the line.
And then that's what happens when things aren't regulated correctly. I think that just for example, like in the UK, we do have some private doctors and stuff do shill for some pharmaceutical companies, but it's not as big. It's regulated that they can only earn up to, I think it's £100,000 a year from shilling pharmaceutical products and treatments. But in the United States, there's no cap. And so when they're, I can't remember what they call them here. We call them a GP here. I think they're primary care physician. If their primary care physician is saying, well, no, take this medication in the United States, it's highly likely that they're being paid by that pharmaceutical company to make you take that medication.
I wonder if that's why all the commercials out of the US are always like, ask your doctor about.
Yes, it is. It's exactly it. It is so fucking dodgy. I mean, because I'm not against private healthcare. I'm against the way that they do it. And it's if it was regulated properly and we had politicians that weren't paid by pharmaceutical companies, private healthcare could be a real big benefit to healthcare in the West. But what happens is that it's starting to happen here where they're trying to adopt the American model. But the American model isn't really privatized, it's pseudo-privatized. A real privatized system would be regulated much differently. All that they have is that it's regulated in such a way that it just benefits the plutocrats and, you know, the kleptocrats in government.
Our government is teasing or threatening about privatizing it as well. And I mean, there's a lot of arguments for it, though, because in Canada, like, a lot of people have to wait forever to get anything done, right? Like, there was a woman who walked into an emergency room in Nova Scotia and they made her wait for 7 hours. They didn't check her vital signs. They weren't keeping on top of her, and she passed away in the emergency room because they just don't have the staff or the resources. So in Canada, you have to wait an exceedingly long time. Where, like, let's say my husband needed a knee replacement surgery. In Canada, he would be on a list for maybe 2 years to get that done. Where if we were in the US, like, yeah, we'd be paying an arm and a leg, literally the knee.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could almost get it done tomorrow. It's just a matter of those checks and balances. I think the challenge with the American system, and probably not just the American system, is that they'll take, you know, a $2 doodad and then charge the patient $500 on their bill for it. Where there's got to be.
That's where the regulation's going to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we understand you got to keep the lights on, but you don't have to, like, fuck people so hard when they're just trying to be healthy.
Yeah, and then the other thing that people try and say is like, well, we can have like a private system and then the public system, the nationalized one, and then they can run in parallel. And it's like, we have that in the UK, kind of, and it doesn't work. In Chile, they have a similar system like that. And then because anybody, like, with a tiny bit of money, you will use the privatized system and they'll pay an arm and a leg for it. But then that means that no money is going into the national system. So the only absolute poorest people have to use the nationalized system. And then because there's no funding in it, they've got shit equipment, they've got the worst staff because they can't pay them competitively. And there's all the poor people who just get in shafted while everybody else with a little bit of money is paying for average healthcare.
No, I'm depressed.
I got distracted by Beverly Crusher's face, apparently.
You did. And you remained distracted from last night. Didn't you watch it last night?
No, I watched... No, because this is from when I watched Picard, and that was on Friday. And then I watched...
You've been simmering on this for 2 days?
Yeah.
Wow.
Technically 2.5 days for me, so because it's 3 o'clock here. But...
Oh, yeah. I'm going to a salt cave today.
A salt cave?
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Sorry. I don't know what it is. I know that I was invited to a salt cave, and now I'm going to a salt cave with my friends this afternoon. I don't know what it is. I think you literally sit, and like, I don't think it's a fancy name. I think you literally sit in a salt cave. Like a Himalayan salt.
They're sending you to I'm imagining a Carthaginian salt mine.
I think so. I don't think I have to work when I'm there. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not mining, but yeah, we're going to a salt cave.
They could be more fun than it sounds. Because obviously, yeah, North Wales.
Salt Salt healing, or halotherapy, is used to treat respiratory conditions, including bronchitis, asthma, and the common cold. Salt has a drying effect and anti-inflammatory properties. When inhaled, salt particles in the air will enter the respiratory tract, killing germs and bacteria and leaving clients feeling refreshed and renewed.
That's a weird selling point.
It kind of is, although I do have, what I've learned is rhinorrhea, a perpetually runny nose, hence my old man handkerchiefs. So maybe this will help. Maybe I'll just have to get a neti pot.
Yeah. Do a bit of douching, nasal douching.
Nasal douching. Ew, not anymore. Not that you put it that way.
Now, if there was a bit more of a legit mine tour, like tour down a mine, I think that'd be quite interesting. I've been to a few in North Wales, and they're surprisingly interesting, even if you keep hitting your head.
But do they make you wear a hat with a light on it?
Yeah. Oh, not with a light on it, but I had a helmet.
Oh. I want a hat with a light on it. I do actually have a toque with a light on it for when I'm walking the dogs. I do feel like a coal miner whenever I wear it to find dog poop.
Yeah, yeah. You're going around with your little pickaxe, getting the poop.
In the winter, I have to. It's frozen solid. And just then goes and runs around with a poopsicle in his mouth.
Oh, gross. Just do what the people around here are apparently doing. Just fucking leave it for everyone else to walk in.
No, this is in my own backyard.
Oh, no,
when we're walking, it's easy because the heat of the poo melts the snow. So it's easy to find it. It's easy to pick up. You just look for the steaming pile. In the backyard, if I don't get it right away, it freezes into it. So then when I lift it, it's like it's like an archaeological dig. It's like a chunk of snow with frozen poo in the middle.
Amazing. Like,
welcome to 44 and 1, where we have no points.
Yeah. Just what we do is poop. Poop is the point.
Poop is the point. Do you know what happened yesterday? I opened my eyes in the middle of the night and I saw a spider walking across my pillow. Luckily, it was small, but it reminded me of a video a woman made on TikTok where she felt something across her face, and when she brushed it off her face hard, and she heard it thunk against
oh dear.
And then she turned her lights on to see what it was and trying to find something in here that was like the same size. It was like maybe 6 inches long and had 1,000 feet. Like,
Jesus.
I would burn the house down.
Yeah. Well, here in the UK, we have no lethal wildlife, really. One night, I just felt like tickling on my chest, so I just went to scratch it, and then I just put my hand on this spider. But because it's the UK, the spider was like that big.
Oh, yeah. We have spiders. Like, the worst we're going to get is spiders or mice in the house. But, like, usually we've had mice in the house, and they stay in the basement, fortunately.
That's why you need to get a cat.
I've not seen one. We have... So I told you before that my husband has, like, rodent hearing. Because I bought these like ultrasonic things to put in the house and he could hear it. So we found a different one that he's not able to hear. So we have them around the house to keep the rodents out.
So you can hear the frequency of the device.
Yeah. That's but really not cool. Like not super, super loud. Like after we had
just like really quiet.
Yeah. It was like this ever present, like tonight. Is it tinnitus? He thought it was.
Tinnitus.
Yeah. And he was like, I have this. I've been hearing this thing for a couple of days. I can't get rid of it. And I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, my microphone fell over. No, I get it. No, you know when you get satellite dishes, I don't know if you still have them in your country, but like walking down a street full of terraced houses, all with satellite dishes, I can hear them. And it's just like a constant just buzz as you walk down the street.
There was a Criminal Minds episode about something like that.
Cool.
This guy was... I forget what they called it, but he could hear like everything, like lights, wind turbines, and all he wanted to do was just be quiet.
Yeah, just fucking shut up.
It's funny, like even in a silent house, like if I have just like sitting in the living room with the dogs reading, you'd think it's silent, but then when the power goes out, when the power goes out, you realize like all the ambient hum that we live with constantly.
Our power went out the other day. Literally no reason. It's been happening a lot this year because the country's falling apart. And I was just sitting there. I was playing a game. I was having lots of fun, and everything just went out. And then you just hear like the and then nothing. And then you hear all the house alarms go off. Oh
We
yeah,
haven't had, yeah, ours are like we've been having a couple of like 1 second outages. Enough to make me have to go reset the clocks in the oven and the
oh, that's annoying.
microwave.
Oh, this was out for about 3 hours.
Oh, we were expecting it not far from here because we got like 6 inches of snow last week or a couple days ago, and we're expecting to get another 6 inches. But like half an hour north of me, they were expecting a major ice storm. So like a friend of mine lives on a well, and she was like, I had to fill up the bathtubs with water because if there's no power, there's no wells.
Well, I mean, thankfully, we've been lucky that it's been the warmest winter I think that I ever remember having. Considering I live in the northeast, so we should get cold winters here. Not cold by your standards.
But even ours, like a couple of days ago, it was -10, felt like -20 with the wind chill. And that was like the coldest it had been all winter. Like 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, I was walking the dogs in a hoodie. And then I would get home and it was that weird weather where it's like cold and windy, but also warm and sunny. So your face is cold, but your back is sweating. Like,
yeah,
like,
that's the worst. I hate that.
That weather. And it was middle of February. I'm like, there's no business me being in a hoodie inside in the middle of February. Like 5 Februaries ago, I had to buy snow pants and a balaclava, like thermal underwear. And now I'm walking around in a hoodie.
It's batshit. I mean, again, like we are lucky because of the energy crisis that we've had, and then obviously I've said on previous episodes about how like our prices have skyrocketed. I'm a bit worried for next year though, for people that like if they've kind of gone to town on their heating this year, they're not going to have any money saved up for next year, which will probably be colder because that just seems to be what happens. Yeah,
we've been getting a lot more ice storms than we ever have before.
Okay.
And like the first one that I really remember was like 10 years ago, probably 9 years ago. And it was like people were without power for a couple of weeks.
Shit.
Yeah, like we were lucky. I think we were only without power for 4 or 5 days. But some people were, and it was a cold winter, but like Christmas Eve, it was right before Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve, we were going to my mom's house, and it was supposed to be like -30 degrees. So we're like, even though we have a fireplace, we're like, that room only gets so warm. So and like, there is nothing worse than trying to pee in the middle of the night with a frozen toilet seat.
Jeez.
So on Christmas Eve, like that's when I learned to have non-scented candles. Like we would have candles burning in our bedroom all day, so that when we went to bed, it was like kind of warm, but we were still sleeping in like coats and jackets and gloves.
Fuck it out.
So then we like dragged a futon mattress into the room with the fireplace, and like we were trying to keep the fireplace going all night. But then Christmas Eve was supposed to be like cold to the point where we wouldn't have been able to keep the house warm enough.
Jesus.
So we were going to stay at my mom's house. I forget what the point of the story is, but me and the dog were going to stay at my mom's house.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, I don't feel good leaving the house empty because like trees were constantly coming down, like from the weight of the ice, branches were falling. He was like, if a window breaks in the house, I don't want to not be there. So he left to come home. And then 20 minutes later, he was still on the road. And I was like, I feel like an asshole. Like it's Christmas Eve. I'm going to go home. I'm going to suck it up. We're going to go home. And then like 5 minutes into my drive, my husband called me. He's like, the power's back on. And I was like, thank fuck.
But the thought was there. That's how much you love him.
Right? A good wife.
You're a good woman. But did you tell him you were coming back before you found out the power was on?
No, I was just like, I'm gonna go. I mean, but because he called me to tell me, I was like, oh my God, I'm already here. Like I'm already on the road. So he knew because we watch a lot of Columbo. He knew by from the time of our conversation to the time I got home, I had to have already been on the road.
Oh, that's good. It's lucky he can think,
Right? He's not just a pretty face.
Yeah. He's not just a rugged, handsome face.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
It's annoying when they're handsome and they can think at the same time.
I've been trying to break him of that habit, but he's also stubborn.
Yeah, you just can't fucking break him, can you?
No, what are you gonna do? I needed to start earlier is what happened. Like I waited too long.
Exactly. He got
set a precedent.
Yeah. You should have just done what women should do, just get in there early, breaking down. It's what the army do. That's why they want to get you at 16.
Like, I feel like if Andrew Tate had existed 27 years ago, then I could have taken some of those skills and applied them to the relationship from my side, because I'm a high value woman.
Yeah, exactly. See, the Tate stuff is so ridiculous. I can't even think of a comeback to that. Like to keep it going, to keep the chain going.
No. Womp womp. Let's move on to what the fuck is wrong with you?
I can't believe we've been talking about the weather for like 15 minutes, but
it's all Canadians talk about. There's nothing more Canadian than talking about the weather.
Well, actually, I think what you mean to say is that's all Canadians talk about. I believe
we don't talk like that. Hey. When I was in the US with two trainers. We were onboarding like a new company for work, and one of our trainers was in Nova Scotia. I'm in Ontario. The other was in Vancouver. And like the people who were sitting in the room were like, how do you all have three different accents?
Yeah.
But it happens in the States too, right? Like depending on where you are, you have a different accent. But like I had never noticed before that we spoke differently until like that moment. And then they were like dissecting our language. Like, you say it this way and you say it this way.
Oh yeah. Americans love that. One of the things when I was in Durham, and then like there's a bunch of Americans there in our friendship group, and they just love comparing the language stuff because we all speak English, right? But it's all delivered so differently, and we have like a different accent every 20 miles in the UK. You can go from one city to the next, and we've got completely different accents.
Really?
Yeah. That's why
it's the same here, just not as you'd have to drive a little bit further.
Yeah, probably like
that's the
province to province for you guys, but
it is. Well, I think even within the province, there's differences, but it's not like a 20-minute town to town. Like if you're in Montreal versus like way northern Quebec, you're going to have different. Like when I met my husband's family is from northern Quebec, and when I first met them, I thought they were going to sound like people from Montreal, and they do not.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to maneuver.
And then of course, if you compare like BC to Nova Scotia, you know,
very different. But they were even like our folks in the US to us were even like that we would say, I can't remember who, like mobile versus mobile, like those types of little differences.
Yeah.
That I never noticed before.
I remember I got laughed at school because I said Mario instead of Mario. And then so I changed it because, you know, that's how you banter at school and that's how you learn to speak proper. And then so I changed it from Mario to Mario, only to get to be an adult and realize, no, it fucking is pronounced Mario. And I was right the whole fucking time.
It's me, Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when I made that video and I said Zed, and like Americans were like not happy about it. And apparently they only changed it. Like the majority of countries say Zed. The theory is that the US says Z because it rhymes.
Yeah, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, but like we say Zed, and then people were like, how do you say zebra instead of zebra?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, letters have different, like C doesn't always sound like.
Well, even in the word zebra, like every letter there is pronounced differently in the alphabet to when you say zebra.
And then I think I responded saying, like, do you say cirrhosiodial?
Yeah. Well, the other one as well with zebra is that, like, when they say that,
we say zebra. I know, like,
yeah, in America say zebra, and then in the UK we say zebra.
Yeah, that's the thing about Canada is that like we're such a hybrid.
Yeah.
Because technically, being part of the Commonwealth, we should say zebra and we should say Zed, and like we have our U's and stuff like that. But then there's lots of like we say zebra instead. So like we have influences from both the UK and the United States. It's like I think I've told you before about our units of measurement.
Yeah.
We do like kilometers per hour, but we'll talk about like how many miles to get somewhere.
Yeah. And also like we don't really. When I was in engineering, we used to use both interchangeably, like inches and centimeters, constantly, just depending on what we were doing.
We Like when I look at the weather app, back to weather for a second, we look at the weather app, they will rate snow in inches, not centimeters, on
Yeah.
mine. Like my husband's is in centimeters for some reason, but like rain is in millimeters, which makes sense. But like my oven will be at 450 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's 5 degrees outside Celsius.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's so interesting though, such a rabbit hole to go down. Because I remember on Stargate Atlantis, Rodney, the physicist guy, so he's Canadian in it. I don't know if you've ever seen Stargate Atlantis, but Rodney's Canadian, and they've got like different nationalities of character, but most of them are American. And there's like this a MacGuffin called a 0-point modulator, which the Americans keep calling a ZPM, but Rodney, every episode, every time it comes up, will proudly pronounce it ZPM. Yeah.
Represent.
And my little inner nerdy psychologist just goes crazy about it.
My husband and I too, like we'll watch a commercial and like there was a commercial we were watching or something we were watching where someone said Z and both of us at the same time, Zed.
Yeah, we're the same. Watch these things. And then you get like a nice feeling of superiority, you know.
A little bit. And that's also like a nice little couple moment because it's like, oh
yeah, look, we think the same. And also when it's like America is like the biggest, richest, most present country in the world, we have to get our wins where we can.
Exactly, right?
And if that's in the letter Z, then that's where it will be.
I mean, I like Zed.
Yeah. But it does mean that the title of World War Z doesn't entirely carry all of its meaning like it does in America. Because the whole idea of it is, I think, the way he titled
World War Zombie.
World War Z is World War III. It rhymes. So I feel like that's one of his little in-jokes in the title of the book.
Maybe in what language does 3 rhyme with Zed? Not Portuguese or French.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I can go.
Yeah.
Are you looking for fun new glasses that won't break the bank? Go to zlul.com. They have daily flash sales. You can find frames as low as $2. Prescription, non-prescription, sunglasses, they have it all. Use my promo code to save. This is our favorite new segment. It's called What the Fuck is Wrong with You? Splash screen pending. When Tempest finally gets off his ass and sends samples to our person who's going to do them. Okay. So in this one, if you're listening, it is a photo of a woman with very, very red eyes. And she says, she posted this into a Facebook group called Urine Therapy. I've been doing urine drops in my eyes and holding a glass of urine over my eyes for short durations throughout the day. My eyes were getting red and discharging large amounts of pus. I was wondering if anyone else went through this. And the comment is, that's called detox. Keep doing it with fresh urine and the redness and discharge will stop. I don't understand urine therapy.
Because it's bollocks.
Maybe that's why I don't understand it. But like, why would someone think it's a good idea to put pee in their eyes? Like, I don't know what their goal is.
Yeah, there's a lot of esoteric information out there. And I don't mean, I should not say that because it sounds like I'm dissing esotericism, which I'm not. For some reason, they think that because it's been through your body and it's been purified by your kidneys and your liver and everything, they seem to have it the wrong way round, that they think the urine is then going to have all the good stuff in it. Because technically you could drink your pee if you had to. But
can't you only drink it for a certain number of days before it becomes toxic or dangerous?
Not days, it's more like runs through. So like you can only drink it really once safely because the efficiency of your system means there might be some good stuff left in it still and it won't be that toxic. But every time you run it through your body, it gets more and more distilled. And so there's a reason why it's waste. It's because your body hasn't processed it. And then you're sticking it in your eyes.
Well, urinotherapy is an alternative medicine, is the application of human urine for medicinal or cosmetic purposes, including drinking, massaging into one's skin, or gums. No scientific evidence exists to support any beneficial health claims of urine therapy.
Yeah, if your eyes are discharging with large amounts of pus,
That's a sign.
Yeah, that's a sign that something is
The
not
person's
right.
like, just keep doing it. It'll stop. Yeah, it'll stop when your eyes fall out of your head. Like,
Yeah. Well, because
and I know that like people have like there's a lot of claims about urine being sterile, but the package from whence it
yeah,
comes is not. And that's
yeah,
where you're getting bacteria into it, which
yes. This is how, like, the thing is that people, it's one of those things that people, I think, misunderstand. I mean, most of us get it, I think, but people like this in the small minority don't. They're like, the urine itself is sterile when it comes out of your kidneys, providing you don't have any infections. But then there's a reason why you get UTIs. It's because something's gone wrong through your urinary tract.
your delivery method.
Yeah. And if and once it travels through your urethra and comes out, like, it's already contaminated.
Mm-hmm. But let's put it in our eyes.
Yeah, that makes fucking sense.
But like, there was a like a Reddit post I saw where someone was like, "Am I the asshole for feeding my neighbor's kids pea sickles?"
Oh,
and like,
yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, they'll thank me when their kid's doing better in school. It's like, what magical properties do you think are in your pee that like, are you a genius? And you're trying to
and it's just the logic. I just don't understand, like, because it doesn't even sound logical.
No.
Pee is a waste product. It's expelled from your body because your body doesn't either need it or want it. And you're giving it to your neighbor's kids.
Yeah.
That's child abuse.
Yes, that's what a lot of the comments said. Oh, apparently it's a biblical proverb. Drink waters out of thine own cistern and running waters out of thine own well.
Yeah, they don't mean your fucking bladder.
Maybe they weren't being metaphorical. Maybe they actually meant a well.
Yeah, they actually mean your well in your cistern. And then so, because a lot of the stuff in the Bible and the Quran and that, a lot of it is about hygiene, because so many people were dying of horrific illnesses because they did shit like putting pee in your eyes. And I mean,
no, I was going to go somewhere completely different. There is no, stop talking. Shut the fuck up.
Yes, boss.
There's a company that is looking for food donations. They will pay you up to $500 for your caca. You could get because they're I forget what it's called. It's like genomes or biodome, not biodome.
Polysure.
That was a terrible Polysure. No, it was actually quite funny. Anywho, so they're very, because I was like, I poop at least once a day. I can make $500 a day. Like, really? Yeah. $500 a day for poop? But they have very high criteria. Like, I think I'm too old because I think they like it. 30-year-old poop, women can't win over 30. I'm telling you, won't even take her shit. But they also have like a certain fitness level and a certain like dietary whatever, because they want like the best poop possible, because they want to take what's the therapy?
How would they know that you don't
fecal microbiota or something? I think they give you like a health questionnaire. There's like a pretty intensive questionnaire, and then maybe like a sample first to prove that you've got what it takes to donate your poop. But
yeah, it's a questionnaire, self-report, notoriously unreliable, so you could say anything.
You could, but then once they get the poop and they test it, they're going to know you're a liar, pants on fire.
Bet you $500 in the
I don't think, they do pay you up front, but they probably, stop with these scams.
I want $500 from a poo merchant.
Could you imagine if you qualified?
Yeah, I'm going to look into this.
Let's say you poop twice a day. You'd make $1,000 a day. $1,000 a day.
The other day, right? And obviously
because stealing people's poop.
Well, when I'm coming off of opiates, as everybody who listens to the podcast knows, it's up and down, depending on my pain. But then when I'm withdrawing off of it and I go through withdrawal, sometimes I can poo like 4 times in a day. That's fucking $2,000. I
don't know, as an opiate addict, that you would. I mean, not to sound ableist or whatever, but I don't know that you would qualify. I don't know that your opiate poop would be top-notch poop.
It might be. Maybe I need to start doing meth, because your body doesn't process meth, and then it can come out in your pee and stuff. So maybe
I
need
need
to
you to think. I need you to say that sentence again slower, so you could hear how stupid it sounds.
I think it sounded like a genius level thought. I think you just don't understand my genius.
You're gonna develop $1,000 a day meth habit to make $500 a day in poop money.
No, because I could, maybe the meth would like, because I've never taken it, so I don't know what it's like, but it might get me so wired up that I just want to put all the things in my mouth, food based, I mean, and then I'll poo lots, and then I'll make loads of money back, and I'll fund my meth habit.
I don't know if meth gives you munchies like weed does. There's lots of different places where you can donate your poop.
Are they all $500 though? Are they worth it?
No, this one in Canada. There's one in Canada that's like $50 per drop off.
That's all right though. But then again, if you have to drop it off, the petrol might cost too much.
Yeah. Oh, here's the other one where you can make $500 a day. It is called, hang on, humanmicrobes.org.
Microbes.
Don't write it down because you can't use it. It's only the US and Canada. You're gonna have to find the UK version.
I'll write it down and see if there's a UK version of it. Because I mean, it'll be good to know if, like, you know, they might want to do research studies and they'll want people with weird poo. I mean, my poo comes out fine. There's nothing weird about it. It's usually quite healthy. On the Bristol stool chart, it's usually bang in the middle. Good colouring. Good consistency.
Stop it.
It's not black or nuggety. It's not like rabbit poo, and it's not runny.
What animal is it? Wombats that poo cubes?
Yeah, wombats poo cubes, and owls shit out their mouth. Mm-hmm. They don't have buttholes.
I don't know why that tickles me so much. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
I want to carry on talking about owl poop. Okay, so
who doesn't?
Every one of our 30-40 listeners. Which one are we doing next?
The next one. Let's just go right to it. Ban tampons now.
Okay, so
tampons make Jesus cry.
Have you described the picture?
The picture is a tampon and a dildo.
What's dildo's got to do with it?
Because tampons make Jesus cry. Every time you use one, you are violating your body, losing your virginity before marriage. I don't know why this guy thinks you can lose your virginity more than once, and increasing your risk of AIDS by 200%.
Whoa. 200%.
Have you been shot by Satan's bullets? All users go to hell. Stay chaste and ban tampons now. I hope this is satire.
I really do. I really hope it is. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Because it sounds like satire, but I've seen enough shit on TikTok over the last year to make me realize a lot of this stuff is real.
Yeah, and like I have known people, like women who have said, I don't want to use a tampon before I get married or before I have sex because I don't want anything in there. And it's like, but it's like 1.5 inches long. Like it's it's a healthcare product. It's not. And this guy, you're violating about losing your virginity. Losing your virginity.
Yeah, that's because you might break your hymen.
In that case, I lost my virginity to a banana seat when I was 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
But a virginity, like, is, I don't know
why are they so obsessed with it?
But a virginity is the state of a person who has never engaged in sexual intercourse. Why? How does a tampon
exactly
qualify as sexual intercourse?
Yeah, there's so much,
and I don't get the obsession either. I think it comes down to insecurity. Like if you've been with somebody else, then you'll be comparing me to somebody else, and this way I can be shit in bed because you don't know the difference.
I did know a guy once that said that one of the worst bits about getting older is that you're probably never going to fuck a virgin again.
Is it like a capture the flag thing? Like
I don't know. I've never understood it because, like, we've all were virgins at one point, and we know how horrifically bad we were at doing it. So you tend to not want to be one.
Okay, and this guy, how does a tampon increase your risk of AIDS?
Yeah, 200%. Because there's blood.
But it's It's yours.
You can
Well, not
catch it
yours.
from yourself.
Satan's bullets. I love that though. Like I'm gonna start referring to them as Satan's bullets. I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing.
Satan's bullets. And you'll go to hell for sticking a tampon in. That's ridiculous.
Because you've lost your virginity before marriage.
Yeah.
You're no
So
longer
you've been
chaste.
uncouth because you put an object up there. So they probably see it as some kind of act of sodomy or something because
some men believe that women get pleasure from inserting a tampon. But these are the same kind of men who will say like your vagina's all loosey-goosey because you've had sex. Like,
yeah. And
if I get pleasure from something the size of my pinky,
I was about to say, like, that makes me wonder how big their dick is.
It's just a lack of any sort of common sense or knowledge or any sort of knowledge.
Really. And the thing
I still remember the day at school. Sorry, you go ahead.
That's all right. No, I was just going to talk about penises, so you go first.
I think it was like grade 9 health class. Do you remember overhead projectors?
Yeah.
Okay, so our teacher had like a cup of water, and she was like, "Let's see what happens to a tampon when it gets inside your body." And she dropped a tampon into the water, and we all watched it go from like the size of a pinky to like, and everybody was just like,
yeah. Oh man.
And there was a comedian who talked about like pulling out a dry tampon, and then she's like, "If you ever pulled out a dry tampon," she goes, "It sounds like kush, kush, kush."
Yeah.
Like I felt myself recoil.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it's like.
The funny thing is, like, I'm laughing and nodding as if I know. Like, I've never used a tampon myself for very obvious reasons, but I am familiar with these things that you're talking about.
It's just dumb.
Yeah,
they're just dumb.
The other thing is like, you know, with this whole, I mean, I wonder where it comes from, like this lack of understanding of women's anatomy. I mean, I have experienced stuff the other way around with women not understanding men's anatomy, but I have to say that the connotations and the way that it's spoken about are completely different. Like when men like that are talking about it, it's very derogatory and very insulting. Whereas like when women talk about men's anatomy and they misunderstand it, there tends to be a way of being able to rectify it, you know, and help people understand it. But with these guys, there's almost a lost cause.
But I think there's also a lot of women who don't understand their anatomy.
Yeah.
Right? Like there were a lot of women don't, if you were to put a diagram of our situation, like I don't know how many of them would be able to point out like, here's my urethra, here's my clitoris, here's, right? Like, I just don't know that schools do a good enough job of that. And like, I remember in my school, they separated the boys and the girls for sex ed because they thought it would be embarrassing for for each one to learn about in front of them. So like when the girls were in the room, they were teaching us girl stuff. Like we didn't learn a lot. Like we learned like, here's a male penis and here's a scrotum, here's the vas deferens and here's the urethra. Like we learned that, but it was like a 10-minute lesson. And then it was more so on like, here's how you insert a tampon. Here's how you put a condom on a banana. Like it was very basic. And you're teaching 9th graders who don't really have the emotional or intellectual maturity to sit and absorb and like realize how important this is going to be to your future health. And I think if they did it later or throughout, right? Like maybe not just a one-time lesson in 9th grade gym class, but if they taught sex ed and human health and human reproduction and all those things all throughout high school, then kids would leave school with a more thorough understanding and it wouldn't be such a mystery.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you take the mystery out of it, it doesn't become as exciting.
Yeah, exactly. You just help people understand it. Then it, like you say, it demystifies it and it makes them not want to go off and compare their genitals to each other.
Yeah. But then at what point do you start? Because like, you know, 5 and 6-year-olds are playing, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Because it's like, you got that? What is that?
So I think it's probably a good place to start is kind of with young kids is saying that like, if somebody is doing this to you, that's bad and it shouldn't happen. Yeah. And then later on, when I would say about 11 or 12, I first started masturbating when I was 12 and I didn't know that I was masturbating. So like, I just did something that felt good. And I didn't know what it was because my school didn't do sex education because it was a Catholic school. And because I was 12, no one had ever thought to speak to me about it. So
well, I went to a Catholic school too, and they didn't talk about masturbation, but they talked about like just the basic human anatomy and the basics of health, which didn't all get that too deeply because they just hoped that your parents would tell you at home.
Well, the other thing is like, I guess like trying to point out like the differences between men and women's misunderstanding of each other's genitals. I think because of like this kind of stuff here, and like particularly one that bothers me is when blokes think that if she's had lots of partners, like it's going to make her loosey goosey, and it's also that if they have sex with a woman and it feels like it just slips in and stuff, they make judgments about her past without even fucking talking to her. But then, and then that has like such negative connotations because then women get accused of lots of things. But then one of the things I think on the other side of it with women's misunderstanding of men is like the worst thing I think people can do is show them how to put a condom on with a fucking banana. It's nothing like that. It's the worst. Like, to me, it's... And then they create lots of these false ideas about how, well, you know, condoms fit everybody and nobody's going to have a problem with it. So if a bloke says he has a problem with it, he's lying.
But I think it's also, and it's interesting, the two points that you mentioned are interesting about how men will like blame a woman's vagina instead of being like, maybe my penis just doesn't.
Yeah.
But the other is about the banana. Like, I think as uncomfortable as it will be for some people, like just make it as realistic as possible. Bring in a realistic looking dildo.
Exactly.
And like, here's how I'd put it on. Like the more we make things,
abstract.
The more euphemisms that are used and the more abstract and the more you create this mystery around it, then of course people are going to develop shame of that, right? Like if these like the kids who's talking about this ban tampons now, if they were taught this is the purpose, this is what they're for in a clinical and scientific way, then they wouldn't walk away from that thinking like, oh, tampons equals not virgin. Like that's the dumbest take I've ever heard.
That's the other thing, like with the condoms and like you say like put it on the dildo, and even then that might not work because like it's only like the center of the penis is really hard, like a banana would be or a dildo would be, but the outside of it is really fleshy and there's foreskin and other dangly bits, you know. So it could be quite hard to like get everything over all of that apparatus, no matter how aroused he is. And then I think I've never been shown how to put one on properly, because like the kind of problems I was talking about, other guys have said like, no, yeah, I get it. And then someone who I think was a sex worker said that like people used to pay her for a company basically. And she's like, no, I've been with some really endowed men and I've not had any problems getting them on. And then I'm like, what the fuck is the trick then? Are you going to tell some of us? Bitch needs to do a tutorial.
Share with the rest of the class. Yeah, they do. They just need... Everyone just gets so scared of it. Of the topic of it. And it's like, it's a basic function. Right? Like they'll talk about peeing and pooping, but not about menstruating. And it's like, it's a still basic function. Like stop making it so scary and people will stop being so scared. The more you set up women and men to be completely different monsters, right? Because like I've heard men say like, I don't trust anything that bleeds for 5 days and doesn't die.
And they've meant it. Like I've known people that mean it.
But then there's also men who think that women can turn it on and turn it off. Right? Like there was like a guy who made a post on Reddit being like super pissed off at his girlfriend because like they were going on vacation and she chose to have a period while they were on vacation. And he was like, what? My guy. That's not how it works.
But then on the other side of it, like I've had women like deeply apologize to me, like if we've only just started seeing each other, deeply apologize to me that they're on a period. And she's like, I don't want to have sex on my period. I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry this has happened. And I'm like, I
get it. A lot of people don't, right? A lot of people would prefer
well, that's fine. But it's the fact that like other men in their lives have made them feel they need to apologize for a bodily function. Do you know what I mean? Like just that deep apology that they were, because obviously I was new in their life, they didn't know me, but the reactions they got from other men, they're like, I'm all right not having sex for a week. Like, what's the problem? If it's not something you want to do, I'm not going to make you do it. But more importantly, why are other people making you feel that like it's okay to make you want to do that, to make you have to do that?
I don't know. That's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other can of...
One last thing about the tampons is like there was a guy in India and I remember reading about this about 7 or 8 years ago, and he started trying to do a one-man revolution for women's health products, because in India they have a lot of rural communities with a lot of stigma and discrimination surrounding the monthlies. And so he created, I can't remember if it's a new sanitary towel or a tampon or something, but he gets harassed, chased out of villages. He gets death threats all the time. People try to fucking kill him because he's created cheap feminine hygiene products.
There was a guy who made a video about how it's not natural for women to menstruate because he's like, you should be having a period every 3 or 4 years, not every
I heard that one.
It's like, how do you think all of human existence came to be? Like, we're like, just the misinformation of it is ridiculous, which leads us, let's go to the next one, because this one's hilarious. And then so the next one, because it's kind of related. So this one is
I asked him to bring me pads, is it?
Yeah, that's the one. So this is a text exchange between a woman and her boyfriend. She asked her boyfriend to buy her pads. So he sends her a text that says, yeah, what's your pussy size? And she responds like LMFAO, and he has a question mark. She responds, that's not how they work. He says, yes, they are. She says, sir. Like, he's trying to mansplain to her how pads work. He says, small, medium, large. It's like t-shirts. So she has to respond, it's for your flow, like how much you bleed. So he said, I just saw them have sizes on TV, so I thought it was due to the circumference of the coochie.
I guess that's a logical conclusion, at least.
I mean, it's not the most far-fetched thing I've heard. But the fact that he would like, what's your pussy size? And then, yes, they are. She says that's not how they work. And he says, yes, they are. I would have the same reaction she had. She does what, sir.
Yeah. Because surely, like, he should have known her size if they were together. Maybe they haven't got that far yet, but I don't know.
That's a valid question. You would think. He would, if he's been there, he would know roughly. Yeah. Maybe it's like buying lingerie for your girlfriend, where the person at the store is like, is she like my size?
Yeah. Brings out a cup of fluid.
But I think now what they've done a good job with now is that on the packaging, they actually tell you like size 1 for a light day.
A light flow. Yeah.
Size 5 for like overnights or very heavy flow. But it's like t-shirts. The circumference of the coochie.
I hope that was like some 17, 18-year-old lad and not some 40-year-old.
I don't know. I don't know how many 17, 18-year-olds would be comfortable asking their boyfriends to bring them pads. It's reminding me of that guy who posted a TikTok where he's like, oh, what if he's a 6, but he'll buy you tampons, thinking that people would be like, oh, swoon. Like,
yeah.
Your willingness to buy a basic hygiene product certainly outweighs your poor looks.
Oh, man.
I remember the first time I was with my dad and I went to the store and I had to buy tampons. So like he bought what he needed to buy. I went and got my tampons and I put them down on the counter, and my dad just like looked at them and then looked away. Like he couldn't even look.
They don't exist.
Couldn't even look at me. Why do women even need gynecologists? It's just another excuse for women to pretend their vaginas have so many problems and get the gender-oriented pity party they crave. In reality, it's little more than a pussy social visit and a puff of perfume. Let's face it, if women's vaginas really did have enough problems to warrant going to the doctor, then that's because they can't keep their legs closed and use them too much to manipulate men. This is why I'm MGTOW. I don't know what that means.
Men go in their own way.
Okay. For the record, there's a medical specialty called urology, which is specifically a penis doctor. Women only need to go to a gyno if they're sexually active or have a specific problem.
He is wrong.
Urology is not a penis problem.
Exactly. Urology is everything to do with your waist.
And it's men and women will both see a urologist. Exactly. But this guy who thinks that women don't need gynecologists, like, women start getting pap smears when they're like in their early teens.
Yeah.
I don't even have any words for this. Like, this guy doesn't believe that like cervical cancer or HPV or polyps or fibroids or any of those things exist. It's just a social visit and a puff of perfume.
It's disturbing. Like, and that feels real as well. Like that is disturbing. And it's like gynecologists exist because there's a lot of problems with your genitalia and your like urethra and your kidneys, etc., there's a lot of problems that are easily identified and fixable. And then that's why if you have a gynecologist to look up your vajayjay and spray on some perfume, it'll prevent a lot of problems.
Yes, preventative measures are
Yeah.
the most important measure. But
yeah,
let's face it, if women's vaginas really did have enough problems to warrant going to a doctor, then they would have a specialized doctor, aka a fucking gynecologist.
yeah.
You dumb twat.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Fucking hell, indeed. Fade to black.